All right. Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining our session here today. My name is Scott Calvert. I'm a client success manager here at Class Wallet. I'm joined by my colleague Manuela, and a couple of contacts from the Arkansas Department of Education as well. The purpose of today's webinar is to ensure that you folks have the latest information associated with transacting in the Class Wallet platform. We are also here to answer any clarifying questions that you folks may have about anything to do with the EFA program. So if you do have questions, feel free to submit those to us using the Q&A widget that you should see at the bottom of your page. That'll be the way that you can interact with the hosts and panelists on today's session. We've got a pretty large group here with us today, so we'll do our best to address the questions as they come our way. But please be assured if we don't get to all of them, we will be capturing all of these questions. They'll be used to craft future communications, trainings, additional outreach, whatever the case may be, just depending on what is submitted our way today. So we have prepared a slide deck, again, that's designed to just show you guys the different ways that you can utilize the Class Wallet platform to submit transactions. Once we get through that slide deck content, if we are getting common questions, or if there are questions that are asked that are kind of applicable and helpful for the larger audience to be aware of, we'll do a brief verbal Q&A at the tail end of our time today. So again, don't feel like you have to hold on to those questions until the end of our presentation today. Use that Q&A widget, but we hope that you'll find this content to be beneficial. I think that's all the housekeeping. Oh, one more note. Within the webinar chat here, Manuela was kind enough to just copy and paste the link to the slide deck content so you guys can follow along with us as we share that content today. So I think, Manuela, that's it for housekeeping. I'll turn it over to you.
Awesome. Thank you, Scott, for the introduction, and thank you, everyone, for joining. A brief agenda as to what we'll cover in today's training is an overview and eligibility for the Arkansas EFA program, how to access your Class Wallet account, viewing and accepting the parent agreement and acknowledgement, also known as the affidavit, the different ways you have available in your Class Wallet account to use your EFA funds, and a couple other pieces of important information. So starting off with the EFA overview. So for the 2025-2026 school year, participating students will receive either $6,864, or for former Succeed Scholarship Program students, they'll receive $7,627. And those funds are distributed on a quarterly basis, the months being August, October, February, and April. And these funds can be spent for eligible expenses from approved private schools and vendors in the Class Wallet portal. And you can find what those approved and eligible expenses are within the program's website. So if you're following along on the slide deck here on slide 5, you will find the list of eligible expenses and ineligible expenses. The Arkansas Department of Education has put these lists together for you to reference so that you know what you can and cannot use your EFA funds for. So moving on to your Class Wallet account and how you'll be able to access your account and use your EFA funds. So if you did receive a direct invitation to today's webinar, it's because your Class Wallet account has been funded with the first quarterly deposit, and you have already completed enrollment verification, and you have already accessed your Class Wallet account. So once your account has been funded, you should have received a funding email notification from Class Wallet letting you know that your account has been funded. And that email also contains the link to this training presentation, contains the links to what those eligible and ineligible expenses are, and the different ways you have to utilize your EFA funds in the Class Wallet platform. So if you do want to save that email just for future reference, so you have some links and resources to help you navigate the platform, then that is a great resource to reference. So once you are ready to transact and you receive that funding email notification, you can go to app.classwallet.com and enter your email address in all lowercase letters and then the password that you had created. Okay. So if you are a family that has multiple students that are participating in the EFA program, it is important to note that one class wallet account was created for each approved student. So each approved student within the same family is toggled together. So what that basically means is you'll have one single sign-in using the email address and the password that you created. And within your class wallet homepage, you'll see your student's name on the top right corner. So you'll see it says welcome and then your student's name. There on the little drop down arrow, you can click on that and then you'll see a menu populate. And one of the options within that menu will be to switch to user. Then once you click on the switch to user button, you'll see the multiple students listed there. So all your EFA approved students will be listed here once you click on switch to user. So you will have to switch between student's account in order to submit a transaction for each student. So moving on to what your class wallet homepage looks like. So if you've already accessed your account, this looks very familiar. And we'll start here from the top left corner. So on the top left, you'll see what we call the balance tile. The balance tile is where you'll be able to see your available balance or your student's available balance. And this is also where you accept the parent agreement and acknowledgement, which is the affidavit. And we'll go over that in just a couple of moments. You have the linked vendors tab or the linked vendors tile. This is where you go ahead and complete your enrollment verification. And this is also where you can receive payment requests from private schools and micro schools. We have the reimbursement tile. The reimbursement tile is where you'll be able to link your bank account and also submit receipts for reimbursement for any eligible EFA expenses that were made out of pocket. So anything that you purchased directly, with your personal funds, you can be reimbursed for as long as there are EFA eligible expenses. We have the direct pay tile. This is where you'll be able to issue a direct payment to registered vendors and providers. We have the reports tile. This is where you'll be able to see personal reports for your student's account. So like the transaction history, as well as all the funds that have been deposited into your student's account. You also have the support tile. This is where you'll be able to find links to our YouTube channel, links to our knowledge base articles, and also the different ways you have available to contact our customer support team. And lastly, we have the account settings tile. This is where you'll be able to view some basic information like your student's name and your student's school within the account settings. So viewing and accepting the parent agreement and acknowledgement. So in your class wallet portal, this parent agreement and acknowledgement is known as an affidavit. And what the affidavit is basically a electronic consent form um, that is provided by the program, which is language that abides by the programmatic guidelines. So you will be required to accept the affidavit in order to access your EFA funds. You will not be able to access your EFA funds unless you accept the affidavit. So within the balance tile, you should see a blue ribbon here that says affidavit. You'll click on that, and then you'll have a couple of options available to you. So first, you'll see the text and the language that's within the affidavit. Once you've read that, then you have the option to accept it. If you do accept the affidavit, your account balance will immediately update and reflect the EFA quarterly deposit. You can choose to skip for now. If you do decide to skip, you will have the ability to review the affidavit at a later time. However, your student's account balance will remain at $0 and you will not be able to submit any transactions. And then you have the option to reject the affidavit. So if you are no longer interested in participating in the program, or if you know that you won't be able to abide by what that affidavit says, then you'll go ahead and reject it, and you'll see that your student's balance will remain as $0. If this is the case, you will not have the ability to review the affidavit at a later time, but if you do accidentally reject it, you can contact ClassWallet's customer support team and we'll be able to reset it on the back end so that you have the ability to review it again. Okay. So using your EFA funds in ClassWallet. So in ClassWallet, you'll see you have a couple of different ways to use your EFA funds. Okay. So you have the ability to review and accept payment requests from private schools and micro schools. And basically, this is giving the ability for private and micro schools to send you a payment request directly to your Class Wallet account instead of providing you with an invoice. You have the ability to submit a direct pay payment to approved vendors and providers. So these would be like your therapists or your tutors. You also have the ability to shop in the marketplace. What the marketplace is a fully integrated e-commerce shopping experience with vendors that have integrated with Class Wallet and have been approved by the EFA program to participate in the program. And then lastly, you have the option to submit receipts for reimbursement for any EFA eligible expense that you made out of pocket. And you'll find all of these options are available to you on the Class Wallet homepage. So starting off with payment requests from private schools and micro schools. So again, this is offering the ability for private schools and micro schools to submit a payment request to you instead of sending you an invoice. So once a school initiates a payment request to your student on their Class Wallet account, you'll receive an email notification letting you know that a school has submitted this request for your student. In addition to that email, you'll also see within your linked vendors tile, you'll see the payment request next to that. You'll see a little red number here with the amount of pending re payment requests that your student has. So in this example, this account had one pending payment request. Once you click on that button, you'll see a page that looks similar to this screenshot here to the right, where you'll be able to see a high-level overview of your payment requests. So here you'll be able to see the school that submitted the request to you. You'll be able to see the date that the school initiated the request. You'll also see a unique request number, and this is just a Class Wallet generated number um, just for tracking and reporting purposes. And then you'll also see the total amount due. So this is the total amount that the school submitted a payment request for. And then you'll also see the little actions column with the little I icon. You will be required to select the I icon on the payment request in order to either accept the payment request or reject it um, from the school. So that once you click on the I icon, this is what you'll see. Again, you'll see a lot of the same information we saw on the previous slide, but you will also see line item categorization for each line item that the school submitted a payment request for. Okay, so in this example, there was only tuition and associated costs within the payment request that the school submitted, and that totaled $800. There, you'll have the ability to either accept the payment request. If you do accept the payment request, you will be required to select an appropriate expense category. And this just means which category does this expense fall under. In most cases, for this scenario, it will fall under tuition and fees. And then on the school side, they will be able to see that you accepted the payment request for your student. And then on the other hand, you have the ability to decline the payment request. If you see that the amount listed on the request does not match your expectations, or maybe you had already paid a portion of the amount, and you were expecting to see a different dollar amount there, then you can go ahead and decline the request. Declining the request will give you the ability to leave a comment for the school. So this is where you can take the opportunity and just leave notes as to why you are declining the request. That way the school knows on their end what they need to correct. So if you do accept the payment request, you'll move on to the next steps, which is again selecting that expense category. You will also be required to select the purse that you want to use to pay for the payment request. In this case, you will only have one purse available to you to choose from, which will be called the 25-26 AR EFA purse. So you'll select that purse, and then you can go ahead and submit the payment. If you do have any additional documentation that you would like to upload to support the payment, then you can also upload any additional documentation, and that needs to be uploaded in either PDF, JPEG, or PNG file format. Yep. And then you can also leave any comments there if needed. Once you submit this payment request, it is then routed over to the program administrators to review the transaction to make sure that it abides by programmatic guidelines, which is basically just making sure that the items that are being submitted for payments are actually EFA approved expenses. And if that is approved by the program, you will get notified via email letting you know it's been approved. And the school will also be notified that the payment has been approved by the program. The school can then expect to receive the payment on their bank account within 2 to 10 business days of the approval. And then if the program rejects the transaction, you will receive an email notification letting you know why it's been rejected, along with any comments. That way you know what is needed to correct before you resubmit it. So moving on to direct pay, which is how you'll be able to go ahead and issue a direct pay payment to the approved vendors. Okay, so this is again where you'll be able to pay for services provided to you or to your student for any approved services like tutoring or therapy. It is important to note that within this step of the process, once you are ready to issue a payment to the vendor, you should already have an invoice in hand with that's provided to you by the vendor. And we'll go over what those invoice guidelines are as to what needs to be included in that invoice. So it is important to know that at this point, you should have already contacted the vendor outside of the Class Wallet platform. So whether you call them or send them an email, or go to their place of service if it is a local business, then this is where you'll also be able to ask them to provide services to your student. You should have already, know what it is that they're charging for the service. And at that point, they should provide you an invoice to support the service that is being offered to your student. So once you already have that invoice in hand, you can go to the direct pay tile and click on pay. And once you click on pay, you'll see all the approved vendors that have completed or started their class wallet registration. Okay. And then going back to what those invoice guidelines are. So the invoice that the provider provides to you should include the vendor name, the student first and last name for those vendors that do offer services. It should include the item name and description, the date or time frame of the service, and then the itemized and total amounts due. So if the vendor that is providing the service to your student provides you with an invoice that does not include this information, it might be helpful for you to call that out to them so that you don't risk your transaction being rejected because it doesn't include that information. And this invoice does need to be uploaded in Class Wallet in either a PDF, JPEG, or PNG file format. Okay. So once you click on that pay button, again, this is what you'll see. You'll see the list of approved vendors that have started their Class Wallet registration process. So it is also important to note that vendors do have to go through a process in order for them to be visible to you on this part of the process. So whenever vendors are approved, they get a link from Class Wallet so that they can create their Class Wallet account and confirm that they want to participate in the Arkansas EFA program. They are then also required to link their bank account to their Class Wallet account. And the reason for that is because Class Wallet sends over payments to the vendors through ACH for any approved payments. And that, in order for us to ACH them, we need a bank account to send those funds over to. So here you'll be able to search for the vendor. So you can search for them by their display name. And you also have a couple of categories here that you can filter from if that's easier. Once you find the vendor, you'll click on the pay button next to that vendor's name. You'll see in this example, there is a vendor that is grayed out, and that is intentional. It just means that that vendor hasn't completed their Class Wallet registration process, which is likely just them linking their bank account. You won't be able to issue a payment to anyone that hasn't completed that process because if a payment does get approved, there's nowhere for us to send the funds to. So once you click on pay, you'll be able to go ahead and add the payment amount that you want to pay to the provider. You'll be required to upload that invoice that they had sent over to you. You'll be required to choose a purse. Again, you'll only have one purse to choose from, which is a 25-26 purse. And then once you review that, everything looks good, you can go ahead and submit the payment. And again, this payment and transaction does go over to the program administrators for them to review the transaction to make sure that what is being paid is actually an EFA approved expense. So moving on to shopping in the marketplace. So in order to start shopping in the marketplace, you can click on the Start Shopping tile in your Class Wallet account. And here you'll see all the list of approved EFA marketplace vendors. You'll see a couple of different vendors there available to you. And once you select the one that you want to start shopping from, you'll see that you're going to be routed over to a page that looks very similar to what the regular website would look like. It's just important to note that you are shopping on their website, but on their website that's integrated with Class Wallet. And there you'll be able to build your cart, you'll be able to add items or remove items from your cart, um, and have a regular e-commerce shopping experience with the vendor. And then once you are ready to submit that transaction, you will be required to, well, that payment does go over to the program administrators to review the transaction and make sure that what is being purchased on the marketplace is actually approved. And then if that transaction is approved, the vendor gets notified and that order is usually shipped within 2 to 3 business days of the approval. And then if it's rejected, you'll receive a notification as to why it's been rejected. And you'll be able to you'll see that your account balance automatically updates to have that those funds back to your Class Wallet account. And then lastly, you have the ability to submit receipts for reimbursement. In order to start a reimbursement request, you will have to link your bank account. And again, this is a very similar process for those that the vendors have. For any approved reimbursement requests, those are ACH'd over to you if that payment is approved. So that's why the bank account is needed and required in order for you to initiate a reimbursement request. So in order for you to link your bank account, you'll go to the reimbursements tile and you'll click on the blue button that says link account. Once you click on that, you'll see that you are going to be required to enter the address that is tied to your bank account. You'll be required to enter your account and routing number, as well as the bank name and the name on the account. And then if you ever do need to reset the bank account information on your Class Wallet account, you can contact our customer support team and we'll be able to reset it so that you have the ability to link a different bank account. And once you've done that, you'll be able to submit a receipt for reimbursement. Okay, so at this point in the process, you should have already had your receipts on hand and, saved it as a PDF, PNG, or JPEG file on your computer so that you can go ahead and upload it when you are submitting the reimbursement request. You'll be required to enter the vendor name, so whether you shopped at Walmart or the dollar store, or wherever you shopped from, you'll be required to enter the vendor name there, as well as the amount that you are requesting to be reimbursed. And then we do have a mobile optimized website. This is not an app, it's just that you can use the app.classwallet.com website through your mobile browser. And again, that reimbursement request then goes over to the program for review to ensure that it follows the EFA approved expenses. And what needs to be included in that receipt is the provider or vendor name, the purchase date, what the receipt is for, and the total amount that was paid. And again, this needs to be uploaded in either a PDF, JPEG, or PNG file format. And a couple pieces of important information for you to be aware of as well. So for any transaction type, so whether this is a marketplace transaction, a reimbursement, a direct pay payment, or a payment request from a school, you will be required to select a category that applies to your transaction. So if you're submitting a marketplace transaction for a laptop, then that could fall under maybe the technology category or the computer and hardware category. Just kind of depends on what it is that you are purchasing. You won't be penalized if you do select the incorrect category. The program administrators do have the ability to update the category on the back end, but just as a regular rule of thumb, you just select the category that applies to the majority of your transaction. For every transaction that you submit, you will receive an email notification letting you know that your order has been submitted and it's been routed over to the program administrators for review. And then you'll also receive an email notification whether a transaction has been approved or rejected. And then if it has been rejected, you will see the reason as to why it's been rejected within that email communication so that you can correct whatever needs to be corrected before you resubmit a transaction. In your Class Wallet account, you'll also have the ability to access and view personal reports. So you'll have two reports available to you on each of your students' accounts. You'll have the funds received report. This is where you'll be able to see a basically a historical ledger of all the funds that have been received or that have been deposited into your student's account. And then you have your personal transactions report. This is where you'll be able to find a historical of all the orders that you have submitted on each student's account. In this report, you'll also find the status of each transaction. So whether it's on, on the submitted status, meaning it's still waiting program review, or if it's been approved or rejected. And then again, all purchases are being reviewed to ensure compliance with the program guidelines, and any improper use of EFA funds could result in your account being closed. And then upon approval of your payment, you'll get that confirmation email letting you know it's been approved. And then when a payment is submitted to a vendor through the direct pay option or to a school through the payment request feature, that school or vendor will receive that payment within 2 to 10 business days of the approval date. And then when a reimbursement is approved, you'll receive an email again letting you know it's been approved, and those funds should settle into your linked bank account within 2 to 10 business days of the approval. Now, if your order is rejected, you'll receive that email letting you know it's been rejected, and your funds will be credited back to your Class Wallet account. And within that personal transactions report, you will be able to see any rejection notes that were left. And a- any emails, any questions on the approval or rejection of the transaction should be directed back to the email listed in the confirmation email. And some important dates for you to keep in mind. So for the first quarter, school enrollment verification needed to be completed by August 11th in order for your student's account to receive the first quarterly deposit by August 21st. Anyone that completes school enrollment verification after August 11th is subject to a waiting period of about, depends on the range, but like around 7 to 10 business days after the enrollment verification has been completed. For the second quarter, enrollment verification must be completed by October 21st in order to receive funds by October 28th. For the third quarter, enrollment verification should be completed by January 27th to have funds distributed by February 3rd. And for the fourth quarter, enrollment verification should be completed by April 7th in order to receive funds by April 14th. And then some deadlines and important notes. Families do receive email updates and reminders from ClassWallet via email. So we do highly recommend that you save info@classwallet.com and help@classwallet.com as safe senders so you don't miss out on any important information. And EFA funds don't expire as long as the student remains eligible. And then some general information about our security measures. So us here at Class Wallet, our number one priority is to ensure that our users' information are safe. That includes families, providers, and vendors. So for that reason, we do have a dedicated security team who dedicates their time to ensure that our security protocols are being followed at all times. And if you do have more questions or just want more information about the security measures that ClassWallet has in place, you can visit the knowledge base article on slide 40. And lastly, we have our customer support team here to assist you with any questions you may have pertaining to your ClassWallet account. So this includes, questions on your marketplace order being fulfilled or shipped. If you have any need for a return or an exchange. You have questions on how to upload a document when you are submitting a direct pay payment. Those are all things our team can assist you with. And you can contact us in a couple of different ways. You can start a live chat directly through your ClassWallet homepage. You can email us at help@classwallet.com. You can call us at the number listed here. And our hours of operation are Monday through Fridays, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Central Time, and Saturdays, 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. Central Time. And then any questions related to program eligibility or funding amounts or just general EFA policies, you can contact the department, you can visit their website, or you can email them at ade.efa@ade.arkansas.gov. And with that, that concludes the actual presentation. So I'll turn it over to you, Scott, to lead us through our Q&A.
Wonderful. Thank you, Manuela. And thank you everybody for sending in those questions. We're doing our best to keep up with them. Pretty large group here with us today. So please be patient with us as we continue working through those open questions to get you your answers. There have been a few common themes that I think have come up throughout the questions here today. And so want to take a moment and talk a little bit more about the marketplace transaction module specifically. And so with the marketplace, right, there are a number of providers that are available to you, but please be aware that not every item that any given approved vendor in the marketplace sells is considered an eligible expense. And I'll dive a little bit deeper into that. So some providers in the marketplace actually can curate their catalog item by item, such that, you know, Scott Calvert's marketplace only includes eligible items that align with the expense requirements for the EFA program, whereas Manuela, sorry to put you on the spot, Manuela's marketplace instance perhaps doesn't have the ability to remove things from the catalog that are not considered eligible. So want to reiterate for you folks, it's really, really vital that you be mindful of and aware of the expense eligibility requirements when you're considering making a marketplace purchase or any purchase for that matter. So again, just to double tap, not every item that you see in the marketplace is going to be considered eligible. So again, please just be mindful of those expense guidelines when you're considering making a purchase. When you attempt to buy something out of the marketplace that's ineligible, ultimately your transaction is going to be rejected. You'll be given a reason why that transaction was rejected, and it'll likely be something along the lines of, hey, what you tried to purchase is not eligible. So there's relatively lower risk with a marketplace transaction compared to, for example, a reimbursement transaction. What we wouldn't want you folks to do is pay for something out of pocket that is ultimately deemed to be ineligible per the program guidelines, and then you can't use your EFA funds to be reimbursed for that. So again, please, folks, just be incredibly mindful and a little bit cautious around transacting with those modules to be sure that obviously you can use these funds for their intended purposes. Also seeing a number, common thread here, right? A number of questions associated with the eligibility of these materials. And so I'm gonna in our webinar chat here just drop a link to the list of eligible items that has been published for the current school year. That's going to be the best place to go to should you have questions. Now, of course, that's sort of a guidelines document. It's not going to include, is this specific 12 pack of Crayola markers considered eligible, right? It's not going to be that granular, but it is a really good guideline to help you guys understand what sorts of items, goods, and services are considered eligible for this program. I'm going to pause for just a moment here and dive back into the questions and see if we can pull out any additional kind of common threads that we've been seeing throughout, and that would be helpful for everybody to be made aware of during our discussion here today.
Scott, can I talk about the difference between co-curricular and extracurricular really fast?
Thanks, Angela.
Okay, so for the purposes of our program, co-curricular is going to include things like music, fine arts, STEM, CTE, foreign languages, creative writing. That's all considered co-curricular, and there's no limit on those. Still reasonable expenses, but there's not that same hard limit that we have for extracurricular PE and field trips. If we're talking about extracurriculars, that's a little trickier. It's going to include a lot of club activities, things like shooting sports. Cotillion was one that was recently added, kind of some leadership, civic development, that kind of activity falls under extracurricular. Then for PE, team sports are not eligible, but if you're taking like a course or a lesson in a sport, it could be. So the example I usually give is like swim lessons eligible, swim team, probably not. But any course that's in a education activity or a sport would be eligible, but that will have a limit. So the combined extracurriculars, PE activities, and in-state field trip expenses can exceed 25% of your funds.
Very helpful. Thank you.
I saw some questions on how someone can go ahead and cancel their transaction. So I'll go ahead and demo that. Right now I'm on a demo account, on a test account that we use for demo purposes. And here you'll be able to click on the triple line menu on the top left corner. You'll go to where it says Manage Orders. Once you click on that, you'll see again all the transactions that you have submitted for your student's account. And you'll be able to click on the transaction that you want to cancel. It is important to note you'll only be able to cancel transactions that have not already been approved. If the transaction has already been approved, you are unable to cancel it. If it's a marketplace transaction, you can contact our customer support team and we can attempt to cancel the order with the vendor. And then if it's a payment to a vendor or if it's a reimbursement request, we can try to stop the payment, but we cannot guarantee it. So it is important to note you can only get a guarantee if it's still on the pending status. So to do that, you'll click on the order. And then in this example, my order was already canceled, but you will have the option here on the bottom right corner to cancel the order.
Thanks, Manuela. Hey, can we get into the reporting capabilities just a little bit using that demo account? There's a couple of things I would love to be able to highlight here. The first one being, can you show just in many of our reports, folks, you'll have an ability to manipulate the date range with which you're working with. So Manuela, if you could just splash up there, really any old report that has that date range filter. So you'll see that it will default near the top left screen there to a value. You folks will have an opportunity and an option to utilize a custom range whereby, for example, if you wanted to make it so that you're only looking at funds that were or transactions that occurred or funds that were distributed in Q1 of the 25-26 school year, you could key off of essentially the date that you received your welcome communication through today, right? So that's one way that you can kind of break that down a little bit further. So please be mindful of that. You select your date range, you hit apply, and then you're able to manipulate your data to show only that date range. One other thing that I think might be beneficial to offer some insight into, Manuela, is so we know that there are requirements associated with, hey, I can only spend a certain percentage of my funds on this particular category, for example. What would be the most efficient way to go about having account holders see, oh, I've spent X amount of money in this particular category, so I know how much I have left?
Yes, so that would be in your personal transactions report. So, two ways you can get to that report. You can click on personal transactions within the reports tile, or you can click triple line menu, your account, personal transactions report. Either one will take you to the same exact place. Okay. And then here you'll be able to see all the transactions that you have submitted. And then on you have column choosers here. So that's what this triple line menu is showing here. So you have that. And then here you have the ability to add in the categories. So and you also have the ability to add in a couple of other things, but for this purpose, we'll just add in the category. And for this example, I didn't select any categories on these test transactions, but basically if any transactions that you had submitted and have selected a category, which you will be required to do in order to submit it, you'll see that here. And then you'll also see the status. So if you only want to filter for approved transactions, which would be completed, then you can view that. So you can see, okay, well, I spent a total of X amount of dollars within this category on this date. So hopefully that helps. You can also export this to CSV files. So if you do have a whole bunch of categories, it may be easier to have Excel do the calculations for you than rather than manually do it. Okay, and while I'm here, I saw a question about enrollment verification. I know most people have already completed it, but just in case there's anyone on today's webinar that hasn't completed enrollment verification, or if you have switched schools and need to complete that enrollment verification again, you would be able to do that through the linked vendors tile. So here you'll click on where it says link new vendor. And this is where you'll find all the schools or providers available to you for you to link to them. And when you link yourself to a school, that is essentially your enrollment verification. So let's say we have here Manuela School of Excellence. Let's say that's my school. Well, that's a bad example because I'm already linked. So let's do this year test vendor. You'll click on link. It's going to ask you if you're sure you want to link to this vendor. You'll click on yes, and then you'll see your page update, and you'll see that you are now linked to that school. Okay. And then if that link serves as an enrollment verification, the school gets notified that you linked to them, and they are required to also verify that the correct students are linked to their school. And then if you do decide to move schools or if your student has withdrawn, then you can click on the triple line menu on your linked vendors tile and select unlink from vendor. Click unlink vendor. and there you will no longer be linked to them, which means your school enrollment is no longer completed within that school.
Thank you, Manuela. And so just to belabor the process steps a little bit further, right? So your account is created in the Class Wallet platform. You then, as an account holder, are responsible for linking yourself to the appropriate private school, micro school, or the homeschool do not pay entity that's in Class Wallet. At that point, then it's up to the appropriate school entity and or ADE to verify that that's accurate, right? Once that verification is complete, is when the funds will actually be made available to you folks. But please keep in mind, like Manuela was sharing earlier, your account balance will continue to reflect $0 even after funding occurs until that affidavit is actioned correctly, accepted. So thanks everybody again. Just want to peruse through here. Another common kind of thread to pull at here is associated with transportation sort of mileage fees. Angela, is that something I can put you on the spot to see if you can provide some commentary on?
Yes, so reimbursement for mileage, definitely an eligible expense. Had some questions about what about to from this. If it's to or from home to an approved vendor or service provider, you can be reimbursed. It's 52 cents per mile. We have a standard form, which is available, which we can link to you guys. I don't have it right now, or I would put it in the chat for you, but you can fill out that spreadsheet. It's really easy, calculates everything for you, and you would just submit that as a reimbursement request. Couple things to keep in mind. It's only for times when the kids are in the vehicle. So if you're taking the kids to school, that's eligible. If you pick up the kids from school and bring them home, that's eligible. But your return trip as a parent without the child in the car is not. You're also limited to 25% of your funds on transportation expenses as well.
Thank you very much. I think it might be beneficial for us to offer just a little glimpse into the process steps involved with becoming a provider in ClassWallet's direct pay portal. So obviously, once you guys are funded, or even prior to funding, you can go out into the direct pay tile and see what vendors have already completed, as Manuela demonstrated earlier, completed the registration process and linked their bank account such that they are visible to you folks as account holder families. Before they're made visible to you guys, they need to complete an online application that is then reviewed, and if approved, they'll be sent a link that will enable them to complete a registration process in the ClassWallet platform, which again then enables them to become visible to account holder families. So if you're aware of a piano teacher or tutor that you guys really want to see made available to program participating families in the state of Arkansas, please encourage them to reach out to ClassWallet and or ADE to get their hands on that link to register to become a vendor. It is a pretty quick process once they're up and running. They just need to link a few things, link their bank account, and then they're off and running and available to you folks in that module. And Manuela was kind enough to throw that vendor application link in the webinar chat here. So again, if you have a friend or a family member or just a trusted individual that you've worked with for a lot of years, right, that might benefit from participating in this program, please encourage them to sign up. Let's talk a little bit around kind of that quarterly enrollment verification process. So essentially, folks, if you have received your Q1 funds, that means that the entity that you're linked to currently, whether that be your private school, your micro school, or that homeschool entity that we've been referencing, so long as you don't change, transfer out of that school, stop homeschooling, so on and so forth, the link can continue to reside in the Class Wallet platform. That will be re-verified quarterly, But again, if you're not changing schools or changing the mode of educational delivery, right, no additional access, no additional action rather, will be necessary for you folks. So you can kind of leave that as a static link, and then quarterly, like I said, a verification process will occur, but it won't require any access on your action on your part. Apologies.
Manuel also put our family handbook in the chat, which we're really excited about. If you can access this, a lot of you have asked about that co-curricular, extracurricular. That information is in that handbook. There's a whole section on eligible and ineligible expenses. And so I know I talk fast, and so that's a little bit easier to read if you want to revisit that information.
Alrighty, folks, we do have quite a few open questions here, but I know that we are rapidly approaching the end of our allotted time here today. Like I said before, we will do our best here to get to as many open questions as possible, but I'm afraid we very likely are unable to get to all of the open questions before we'll need to shut down the webinar room. Please be assured that ClassWallet and the ADE team will have captured all of the questions that are submitted. We'll be sure to use these to inform future training opportunities, communications, so on and so forth. Certainly want to take into consideration your clarifying questions and needs moving forward here. See if there's any other just low-hanging fruit as I scroll through here. Angela, if I could put you on the spot one more time, I did see some various questions associated with the testing requirements. Can we get just a
Yeah.
high-level synopsis of requirements there?
Right. So students who participate in EFA are required to take a national norm reference test each year. But if your child does have a qualifying disability, we have an alternative option and we'll have information in the spring on how you can do that. Most of the questions I saw were like, I don't think my child would test well. Please be assured that this is not like a minimum score your kid has to make or we're kicking them out of the program. It's nothing like that. We're just really looking at growth from year to year. And so we'll look at their test scores for the time that you're in the program. Um, if your student does qualify and would likely not be tested if they were in the public school system, we do have an alternative portfolio assessment that you can provide. So don't be scared if that's what would keep you from the program. We have some alternative assessments there.
Thank you. Okay. Again, folks, apologies for being unable to get to all of the open questions during our time here today. But I'm afraid we are at the end of our time. I want to wrap up just by thanking you all for participating in today's session. Hopefully you guys captured the contact information on that prior slide. Please don't be shy to reach out directly to the class wallet where applicable to get the answers to your lingering questions. But appreciate you all and thank you for participating in the program.